Well, good afternoon. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good, good. I'm so excited to have you here. Do a quick introduction of the podcast and myself, and then most importantly, introduce you. So, if anyone is joining us for the first time, I am Melissa McLeod, and I am here at the Wool and the Floss in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. And with my partner in crime in St. Louis, Megan Holmes at the Needlepoint Clubhouse, we are the Pointing It Out team. And we have the pleasure of bringing you many fabulous, smart, brilliant people in our needlepoint world. And today we have Daniel, excuse me, I know your proper name is Daniel, but you prefer Danny. Danny Ravan. How do I say that?
Ravan.
Ravan. No, no, I don't pronounce the N. Is that correct?
No, Ravan.
Okay, Ravan. I got it. Sorry, I should have gotten that straight. So you are the owner and operator of Rainbow Galleries, many of our stitchers' most favorite threads. We don't know how we would be anywhere without the little white cards in our lives. Um, and I'm just so excited to talk to you about everything that your company has done, that you're doing, learn more about you, all that good stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, where did you grow up? What your educational background is, what are the things you've done. You look fairly young, but there might be a few like past careers in your pocket, who knows, and how you got involved with the company.
Of course. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I've been looking forward to doing this.
Thank you.
So a little bit about my background. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles.
Nice.
My parents emigrated to America in the 60s from Iran. And my father, upon moving to Los Angeles in the early 80s, got into the needlepoint business, started Fleur de Paris, and has built that company over the last 40 years, 40 plus years actually.
Wow.
And then about 5.5 years ago, almost 6 years now, John Chadless, who was the previous owner of Rainbow Gallery, was retiring, and he was looking for a buyer to buy the company. And Sally, who knew my father pretty well, reached out to him about purchasing the business. And so my father convinced me to get involved. And so we purchased the business. And then a few years ago, we moved into one building and had all of our warehouses and offices here in Burbank, just as, natural fit.
Right.
And the rest is kind of history.
Right. So Flora was always in Burbank, and so was Rainbow Gallery, or?
No, so Fleur de Paris was in West LA,
Okay.
and Rainbow Gallery was in North Hollywood.
Okay.
So
So describe that to the Midwestern girl here. How far apart is that?
it's about a 30-minute drive.
Is that good traffic or bad traffic?
Yeah,
I always hear about California traffic.
That's probably bad traffic. Generally in LA, if there's no traffic, you could get somewhere in 15 minutes.
Okay, so it wasn't a big leap to move the companies to the.
Correct. And a lot of our employees actually for both companies lived closer to Burbank. So it kind of worked out for everybody because they were all kind of in the valley.
Okay, so but let's back up to you, because I think it's always really interesting to hear like where people have come from. So you look fairly young, but I'm guessing this wasn't your first job out of high school.
No, it was not. I had a few jobs here and there, nothing, career oriented. And when I graduated college, I moved back from Boston University.
Oh, you went to
And
be nice.
yeah, and my father, said, come work for me, which I did. And I was not too passionate about it. And I was just trying to figure out my role, in my father's company.
Right.
And then when the Rainbow Gallery opportunity came about, that really changed everything for me personally. Taking ownership of the company and kind of having my fingerprints on a lot was very exciting to me.
Nice.
So that was something that really helped.
So I have two questions, and they're very different questions.
Yes.
How did the LA boy handle Boston winters, number one? And I'm not totally kidding.
Easy adjustment, I'm not gonna lie.
It was not. No, I'm sure not.
Very cold, but it was very good for my personal growth. to be on my own, to figure it out, very different surroundings. Um, and then, of course, just the fun of being in college and, enjoying that aspect of my youth.
Yes. And what was your degree in?
So I studied political science. Uh,
Okay.
so it was something that I still do love. But as far as career, I don't think it was, the route for me. So
Right.
I always had an inclination towards business and I minored in business.
Okay.
So it was always in the background. But as far as, just study wise, I did enjoy learning about, politics and governance and stuff like that.
A nice, well-balanced thing. Have it. So I was a business major, but I honestly think the bulk of where I got the knowledge that really matters now are all the classes I first had to take, which is probably what you took as a business minor. So
Yeah.
you have all the nuts and bolts, then the rest, the school of real life teaches you a lot. We all know that.
Yeah. It's funny too, because in college, I always had difficulty with accounting. And now I do all the accounting. And the more I just practiced it in our system and, doing it on our back end, I learned way more than I ever did in college.
Well, and you understand why it matters and what's important, and it all makes sense when you're just plugging a bunch of numbers in when you're a college student and it's not real life. And they're all widgets, right? That's all they talked about was
Yeah.
widgets. Do they still call them widgets in your day?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, back in my day, everything that every accounting class is, you sold 50,000 widgets. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know why they never gave it a real life circumstance, but so I'm
Yeah.
sure that it's the real thing. It makes a lot more sense. I know it does for me. So. And so you came right back to California after being in Boston?
Yeah. Yeah, which in retrospect, maybe I would have delayed it a little bit just to experience it. But I mean, now that I'm here, my roots are here and I'm, building so much here that I can't leave.
Right, right. Good. Well, that's really interesting. Like I said, I love learning about people's backgrounds and how they ended up where they are. And, even though your father may have brought him you in under his wing, you're your own person and
Yeah.
you've got your own
Yeah.
deal that you're working on. And so the history of the company, I know that you said you all bought it 6 years ago, but it was started back in 1979, which I think is probably before you were born. Am I right in the math?
Yeah. Yeah. Just by about 10 years.
That's all right. And so do you know anything about like the history, like how it started,
Of
why it
Rainbow Gallery.
yeah.
Yeah. So John actually kind of, I don't want to say stumbled upon it, but he kind of saw the need for certain types of threads. And so it really started out way different than it is now. I mean, my understanding of the early days, it was in a small office with one or two machines just wrapping cards. And slowly over time, you know, meeting with one vendor and another vendor and kind of finding other threads. And then it slowly blossomed into Rainbow Gallery. And the most important, about maybe now 20 years ago, when Sally joined, and she started off as a consultant, and she would only do shows, and she had a shop.
Right.
So she of course is an amazing needle pointer and knows the business side of it, and so she came up with a couple ideas that was missing in the industry. And
Nice.
so then we started braiding the threads ourselves, and you know 40 years later we have 50 plus lines.
Wow. And so was their initial focus cross stitch? Was it needlepoint? Was it a little both? Was it something different altogether?
Mostly needlepoint, and back then I think, if I remember correctly, charts were big in the needlepoint industry, so it was very active in the charts, and I guess now what are stitch guides, kind of that aspect of
Right. Well,
getting threads out there.
I think a lot of people who stitch don't realize this, but if you dig deep onto your website, you all provide a number of free charts for
Yes,
people that are maybe just learning to have a way to go down the needlepoint path without spending a national amount.
absolutely. It's actually funny that you mentioned that, because when we first took over, one of the first things we did was change the website. But what kind of prompted me to some of the changes that we did were because we would get phone calls from people that were asking for the charts.
Ah,
And so, being the young person that I am, I figured, well, hey, you could just put this on a PDF and put it on the internet, and
right,
anybody and everybody can just go download it.
right, which is
And
very generous because that just, I mean, of course, it does help you with your business. We're not going to pretend
yeah,
it's not, but
yeah,
it's a really great, really, really great place to start. And I don't know, yeah, you can see a little behind me. My shop mainly focuses on painted canvases. We don't do a lot of chart
right,
things. But I personally love to do a charted piece once a year. I feel like it works a different side of your brain.
right.
And I'm like to rationalize my stitching that it's going to keep me out of the dementia wards maybe someday. So anyways, I love having places to find charts, especially when they're complimentary. So thank you for that.
Of course, yeah. It's actually, Florida Paris has always just done, regular needle points. So I had no clue about these charts until I got involved with Rainbow Gallery.
Okay.
And so it was kind of a learning situation for me, especially when we first took over the business. I tried to make very few changes and just really absorb everything that I could, that first year or two. And I
Smart.
was very lucky because, I had Sally, who was an incredible mentor and really showed me everything there was to know about Rainbow Gallery threads.
Well, we should jump in here because sometimes I forget that the whole world doesn't know everything about our industry. So you keep referring to Sally, and Sally is Sally London, who was your general manager for how many years? 20.
Yes, almost 20 years, yeah.
So I bought my shop from my prior owner, and I've been here 5 years, and I worked for her for about, I can never remember, 6 years maybe before that. So in my world, Sally was our rep at Rainbow Gallery.
Yes.
And when she was leaving, I was like, wait, what do you mean? I didn't know there was anybody else there, which obviously is a huge cast of characters that are making all of the beautiful things happen. But she, I think, at least for me personally, was a big part of Rainbow Galleries because that's who I dealt with for however many years. I just said I've been here 11 years. So yeah, she's really great.
Yeah, she was, who most people dealt with, and I tried to just stay behind the scenes and, stick to the business side of things, and that was my strength, and her strength, amongst other things, because she did many, many things for us, was the needlepoint side of it, and
Yeah.
knowing about the fibers and colors and everything. So she's
So
a hard
I'm
person
trying to
to.
remember if there are some canvases out there that have her depicted on
Cat.
them. Those from
Her
Floor?
cat. Oh, sorry, herself.
Yes.
So she actually has two. So Lee Richardson of Lee Designs did a series, a Sally series, where she is, in different outfits,
Yes.
and
They're,
so
they're so quintessentially her. I just adore them. And I can see Sally being a little embarrassed about that, but
she
she
does
should be
not love
better.
that. But it's funny actually. Lee has told us the story a few times. She got the idea at a show because she saw Sally, with her shopping bags or curlers in her hair. So
So
it's
fun. So
real
fun.
life inspired.
That's really great. Okay, so you talked about how many thread lines. I think you said 50 plus, right?
Over 50, yeah. So we have a lot of thread line, like maybe there's 10 or 15 that are not active or don't have as many colors left, but we still have inventory.
Okay.
And we always get, a customer. Sometimes it's a retail customer. They'll say, I'm doing a project and this is a really old thread. Do you guys still carry it?
Right.
So, the thread business, you have high minimums and you end up with a lot of inventory.
Right.
So we do still have, but yeah, well over 50.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Um, when you get a second, I should have said this to you offline, but Megan and I did a whole episode about your threads when, like a while ago, just like from a shop owner's perspective of like what our favorites are, some that we find a little more challenging, etc. So you could probably go and watch that and figure out how many things we said right and how many things we said wrong. But yeah, we had fun talking about it. We've done a number of thread episodes because obviously people who watch us, threads are the bulk of of what we do with needlepoint. You have to have a really great canvas, but your canvas isn't anything without your threads. Um, so besides thread lines, I know that you also have a number of accessories, books, other things.
Yes, we do. We have a few books that are, you know, not even brand new books that we
Trying.
sell a lot. It's amazing actually how many books we sell, especially our Stitches to Go book.
Oh, for
I
sure.
think that has some years on it, and we still sell, you know, hundreds of books. It's unbelievable, actually. It surprises me every time I have to order these books.
Well, I
And
think
then,
everyone was super glad when you guys took over the Lone Star book, which is kind of Stitches to Go to, for lack of a better word.
right.
So I'm sure the chapter was very excited because I'm sure they were shocked by the demand for that book. So
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I get it. It's education and it's important. And then we also just have tools and accessories as well. We distribute tulip needles. We make certain tools that just help with stitching that we make in-house. We have BLTs. They come different ways: the acrylic, wooden, and then a bunch of scissors. Actually, we bring in scissors from Europe that are very good scissors that people love.
right, right. So speaking of bringing things in from Europe, you must have, how many different countries do you deal with this business? I mean, I can't have to believe it's fairly large.
Yeah, so some of the threads that we bring in come from different parts of Europe. Some of it's from France, some of it's from England. Um, I think some of it is also from Italy. And then we also bring in a lot from Asia, so which mostly comes from Japan.
Okay.
And a lot of our metallics, silk. I mean, it spans a lot.
I bet. So my head's just spinning in so many different directions. And I guess we'll talk about it in a minute. I think it's important to talk about the challenges you've had to face in the last 15 months, but we'll get there. So things are milled overseas, and then, so what part of the process is done overseas and what part of the process is done domestically?
So our lines that have metallic, so that would be silk lame, and the different sizes, that would be glisten, entice, and then our treasure braid line. We have braiding machines here, and so we will bring in the raw materials, whether it's the silk or the metallic, the rayon or the metallic, the wool or the metallic, and we will braid them in house to create what ends up being silk lame or glisten.
So
And so,
I'm imagining you get large cartons, containers, whatever they might call, from overseas of the raw product. And
yes,
then you're creating the braiding, which then probably is in some ginormous cone of some sort, right? I mean, I'm talking layman's terms here.
yeah, exactly.
Um, and then the carding is a whole separate process, I presume.
Yeah, so all of the carding, whether we manufacture the yarn or not, is majority of our manufacturing process, because everything we buy comes on a cone or a skein, and
Okay,
so we have to get 10 yards on a card or 20 yards on a card,
right.
and so we have machines that wrap cards depending on the yardage. So that's the carding process. And then depending on the thread itself, something like Splendor, we bring in from France on a cone and then we just wrap it on the card.
Okay. And this all must take a fair amount of manpower, or people power, I guess I should say, is the more proper term these days. So how
Yeah.
many employees do you have?
So on the warehouse side of things, we have about 14 employees.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
We're,
amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean, I just think about, like, the ginormous box that I get once a month, and then you multiply it by however many, how many needlepoint cross stitch shores customers do you have, do you think? Do you have any guess of that?
Yeah. It's like 800 to 1,000, I would say.
So 14 people can help. That's amazing. That's amazing to me. I would have thought your staff would have been larger. So must mean
Yeah.
you have a lot of
Um,
economies of scale. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, up until the pandemic, we've never had a production issue.
Okay.
And so we've never really needed more employees.
Right.
Um, for us, it's actually not so much the employees, it's the machines. And so making machines to wrap the cards is what's taking us a long time, because we've seen our demand in the last 15 months skyrocket.
Yeah.
And so we are well aware of orders are taking us longer to ship out. Orders are much bigger now. So, we do need more manpower, but the machines have to come first.
Right. Well, it doesn't help if you have a bunch of people standing around if there's nothing that the machines
Yeah.
aren't there to do the work that they're managing. So that makes complete sense. And I think everyone in this industry would love to see this demand continue.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, that remains to be seen. I mean, I have seen so many younger stitchers coming into this industry,
Right.
so many people rediscovering this craft. Like we all hope it sticks, but we'll see what things look like in a year and a half. And it's hard. I'm sure the investment of a new machine is huge. And I'm sure there's also a footprint it takes up, which you may or may not have the square footage for. Like that's a big decision.
Yeah. So we have a pretty big warehouse here. Our warehouses and offices are almost 17,000 square feet
Wow.
between the two companies. Um, and we've already invested in 3 more braiding machines, because the machines that we create the yarn, Silk Lame is still doing very well, and Entice is picking up. And so it makes sense for us to invest in that area of it. And we're working on adding more carding machines as well. And so we're hopeful, if the demand continues like this, which we expect, at the end of the day, people are learning about the hobby, and you and I who are in the industry know the benefits about it. And I think the pandemic has truly, spread the word.
For
And
sure.
so while I think some people might have had the hobby and are picking it up, I think other people are going onto YouTube and picking it up as something new.
Right, right. So that's something we didn't talk about, and I don't even know if I wrote this down in our pre-work. Um, do you stitch?
I do, not as much as I should, but I do.
So you
And
you got the basics down, but it's not something that you feel the need to do every night before you go to bed.
correct, correct. I mean, during the pandemic is when I actually, really did make a few things because, I wanted to.
Right.
But now, I hate to say it, but I don't stitch regularly.
Well, that's okay. And we won't get into why you don't. I will tell you that I'm not stitching just because there's just isn't enough hours in the day. And I have stitched since I was 7 years old. So not having time to stitch in my day is very sad for me, but life will go on. I will get my turn again. So it's all okay. It's all okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
I would say when I did do it, I felt, um, the rewarding aspects of it, which was very nice.
yes, I had let me think of Lauren. Dr. Weiss was, I think she's a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but we had a whole episode talking about like how important the mental health benefits of this are. And once you've experienced it, you realize that sometimes when you step away from it, that maybe you should be making time for it. At least that's
Yeah.
my personal world. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, so we've talked a little bit about the past 15 months. So for anyone who's watching this, not when we drop the episode, right now it's June of 2021. So you can tell how crazy the last 15 months are because I had to think about the month and the year. Um, so dealing with increased demand, dealing with shipping from overseas. I'm assuming you probably had some sort of challenges with shutdowns of your mills overseas. You may or may not have had COVID issues under your own roof. Like, talk to us about the things that you've had to deal with, how you've kind of shuffled to, I hate to use the word pivot because it's so overused in this world of ours right now, but yeah, what have you done?
Yeah.
How have you handled it?
It's interesting because it's had so many different aspects of it, and it was different at many times of the last 15 months. And so originally, or at the beginning, I should say, March 15th or whenever it was that it kind of, became a thing.
That was the day I closed my doors, March
Yeah,
15th. Nailed it.
yeah, we kind of saw it coming, and so we sent out a letter to the customers that we would be, closing the doors. And I think maybe we sent out the letter on a Wednesday or something.
Okay.
We had received, a crazy amount of orders before we even could close our doors. And
Right.
these orders are very big. It's essentially when everybody was hoarding the toilet paper, same thing. They were trying to hoard thread.
Well,
And
white and
so,
black especially, right?
yeah, exactly, the main colors. And so, we got a bunch of orders. California was pretty strict. We had to close our doors. Um, and I think for at least a month, we were closed, or at maybe a quarter capacity. And we had a decent amount of inventory, but we had all these orders. And so we lost production. We lost, packs being made every month. And it slowly started to eat into our inventory. And so at that point, getting back to a level of where we were at before, 15 months later is still, we're still trying to get there.
Right.
And so we've increased our hours, whichever of the employees are willing to work
Right.
longer hours. And so that was kind of the first aspect of it that we still have yet to recover from. And then the other aspect was, okay, because we have a bunch of, raw material. That raw material slowly dwindled. We had stuff on order from Europe. And so threads that took usually 4 to 5 months to receive, we're now taking 6 to 8 months.
So
And
did any of your mills shut down altogether, do you think?
yeah, I think in France specifically, they, were very limited as to what they could produce.
Well, a friend of my daughter's was in France when everything shut down, and she was like, I've never wanted a dog more in my life, because then I could leave my house more, like, because you had to sign up for like a special pass to be able to leave your own home, and if you were found on the street without that pass, and yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
it
hard to imagine.
yeah, it was very difficult. And one of our best lines, Splendor, is manufactured and dyed in France.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you recall, but for a good 7 months, maybe 5 months, we were out of at least like 30, 40 colors. And, people really wanted the thread. It's one of our best lines. And so finally, like maybe a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, we got our first shipment, then we got a second shipment, and but that's just getting the cone. Then we got to wrap it on a card. And so our manpower here can only wrap so many cards so quickly.
Right,
And
right.
that becomes a whole nother thing of, okay, we now have the cone, but we need to put it on cards.
Well, I feel like you'll be caught up again when I start getting face cards again, because face cards have 6 colors on them. I can't see it from here.
Yes,
6 colors on them. So I figure those are going to be the last things we see, because you having all 6 or 7 of those colors at the same time,
yeah.
it's going to mean that your inventory is finally back.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because we have like 4 of the 6 colors.
I'm sure.
We're just waiting for those 2. And, we're at the
By the
middle.
time you get those 2, you might be out of one of the first 2 that you had. Right?
Yeah, it's true. We wrap, like right now, everything is wrapped except the missing color. So that once that color comes in, we can just wrap one more and that's it. But yeah, people, all the SC cards are very popular.
Right.
And people really want them. And unfortunately, we're just sitting here waiting.
Well, as I remind my customers often, we all love what we do, but the good news is it's just needlepoint. And if you don't have that right skin color, go a shade darker or a shade lighter. No one else but you is probably going to know. And,
Very good.
no one's going to bleed out on the table because they don't have their Splendor color. So,
Yeah, and I think we see it because when I look at some of the sales of other colors, I just, Blender has 300 colors. There's another shade of red and it works pretty well. So
Exactly.
um, I will say though, and it is a minority, but there are always, a few customers that give you a hard time. And sometimes I don't blame them because maybe their customer is giving them a hard time. Um, and it just kind of goes up the chain.
It may be, but I think we all need to keep it in perspective. You know,
Yep,
if this
that's
is
very,
our biggest problem that we can't get the exact shade of red we want, we're very, very lucky people.
yeah. Well, I will say we always pre-pandemic, we were able to get your order out in 2, maximum 3 days max.
Yeah, and I can attest to that.
And we pride ourselves on that of, you place your order and within a day or two it's out.
Right.
Now, if you get your order within 3 weeks, I'd say you're lucky.
Oh, we're thrilled with that. I mean, we're always excited when a thread package arrives from wherever it's from. And, as I said, these are first world problems. So we're all very fortunate that if our biggest stress is whether our Rainbow Gallery package arrives in 3 weeks or 3 days, life's good.
Yeah.
Life's good. Well, we've covered a lot of territory, and I don't know if everyone who watches us is aware of this. I talked about this briefly. I know that you have one brand new product, and I shouldn't say brand new, but new since any of us have had a market to go to, which has been
Yeah.
for a while. And Megan and I have been asked to write an article for the Needle Pointer magazine, which is part of the American Needlepoint Guild. We were very honored for that. And the first article out the door, we were asked to highlight new products, and of course, we had to turn right to Rainbow Gallery because you guys are, head of the line. And so I just got one little card of Silk Lame Plus, but it's
We
lovely.
should send you a whole ring so you could play with it.
I would love that. I would love it because I carried so I'm a very small shop. I mention this all the time. People are probably like womp 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 because I say it all the time. But like people say, well, you don't have the whole Splendor line. Well, you just said there's 300 colors. I can't have 300 colors on my wall. There's just not enough space in this tiny little place. But I do have the full Silk Lame braid line. I made room for that. And we've talked about Sally quite a bit. Sally, I think actually it was when we were shut down and I was here by myself. And I think she was one of the few people still coming in. And or maybe she called me from home. I don't know where she was when she talked to me, but I said, okay, I need to revamp some of my threads. I don't have much space. And she was so great. She's like, you need every color Silk Lame braid. And if you need to get rid of X, Y, and Z to make room for that, that's what you need to do. So she was really, really good about coaching me with all that. So I do have the full Silk Lame braid line. And I would love to find room for the Silk Lame Plus. So tell us how the two compare.
Yeah, so the Silk Lame Plus, as far as colors, are exactly the same.
Okay.
Silk Lame has a size 13, a size 18, and a petite.
Right.
Generally speaking, all the colors that span the 3 lines are the same. So one is black, whether it's 18, 13, or petite.
Right.
Same thing with the plus. The plus is 36 colors at the moment. Of course, we will be adding more over time, but these are kind of the 36 basic colors. And this is a ribbon. It's a flat ribbon. And so
So, for people always get confused about this when we talk about a ribbon. We're like, well, it's not really a ribbon. It's the shape of the thread. So this,
yeah,
if we can see this is Neon Rays Plus, which is a ribbon shaped thread. So really skinny on the side, and I think this is about 1/16 inches wide, maybe something like
yes.
that. So when you're talking about a ribbon shaped thread, this is what we're talking about, as opposed to Silk Lame braid, which has a roundness to it.
Exactly. And so we're very excited. The story is actually, we kind of stumbled upon this thread. We were tinkering with our braiding machine and changing a few settings here and there. And so it kind of spit out this braid. And we said, hey, we might have a thread on our hands. And yeah, it's basically kind of the same composition, but the way the machine, instead of twisting into, like you said, something circular and tubular, it's flatter. And so we're hopeful that it takes off. So far, most people are pretty happy with it. I mean, we've sent out rings and packages. And like you said, if we had a trade show, I think it would be in more shops.
We're so waiting
Unfortunately,
for that.
that's not the case right now, but we're hopeful that soon we will be able to get it to the masses.
So sorry, I'm making notes because I keep thinking of other little things to add on to our conversation because how my
Mm.
brain works. So tell me the difference for the stitcher between, I know the difference, but um, describe what you feel is the difference between Silk Lame Plus and Neon Rays Plus.
I think Neon Rays is a little bit smoother and it has a little bit more of a sheen to it.
Because of the
Um,
rayon.
yeah, because of the rayon. But I think quality wise, I mean, at the end of the day, Silk Lame is a little bit better quality. So
Yeah, I'll choose silk over polyester any day when in my wardrobe. So it's not very much different with my stitching.
exactly.
Okay, so the other burning question that I get about Rainbow Gallery all the time is they say, well, what about dye lots? So what do you have to say about that? I didn't warn you of this in advance, so I hope I'm not putting you on the spot.
That's okay. Um, you know, you would think it's an issue because you're dealing with, you know, buying different batches.
Right.
For the most part, they will send us lab dips. So we always compare the lab dips to our thread here to
Okay.
make sure that it's the same. And sometimes it'll be off, and sometimes we have to reject it.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, they kind of keep doing it until they get it right.
Okay.
And we're not hesitant to tell, you know, the mill, hey, this isn't close enough, do it again,
Okay. So
because we
and
understand it has to be the same.
so I think there's two things going on. First of all, you're getting such a large quantity in when you do get it in, that's maybe part of the reason why they say there's no dye lots. And then the secondary part is that you're having a physical check before you start carding anything else that comes in or even braiding anything else that comes in. Is that correct?
Yeah, so especially now because of the pandemic and how long it's taken us to get threads, we've increased our quantity of our batches so that it lasts us a little bit longer. So generally speaking, you know, when we get in these shipments, it's a lot and it's all one, you know, dye. And so for the most part, we haven't seen much come in being incorrect.
Okay. Good.
And yeah, thankfully, knock on wood, I mean, we haven't had issues where it's drastically off, even if we approve it. I think once or twice, maybe we've got thread that was just not right, and the mill is usually pretty good about it.
Nice.
So yeah,
Okay.
because you do like for the velvet, for example, um, it's delicate, so we will get a lab dip and it's off. I mean, we recently got some lab dips that I had to deny because it wasn't close enough to what we usually have.
Gotcha. Good, good. Okay, so we've got Silk Lame Plus 36 colors right now, and I'm assuming that that will expand. Anything else coming up the pike that we need to know about?
Yeah, so we have new colors of rainbow linen that are actually available now.
Oh, okay.
We came in with about 6 colors that we're actually very excited about. They're bright, they're very nice. And then we have new colors coming out of Entice, as well as Silk Lame 13 and 18. And there are 9 of those colors, as
Good.
well as Silk Lame Petite. Usually when we come out with new colors of Silk Lame, it'll span all 3 sizes
Okay.
because they, you know, came out and they match. At the end of the day, when we come out with 9 colors, it's 9 colors for all 3. And then we also have just like odds and ends of Neon Rays Plus, Rainbow Eyelash, and Rainbow Angora.
Okay. So I should know the answer to this, and I think I do, but I'm going to let you answer it. Because if I don't know, a lot of other people don't know. When you talk about petite silk lame braid, which is the one originally designed for 18, and then silk lame 13, I think you call
Yes.
the larger one. What is technically the difference in that? Is it just more of the silk strands or less of the silk strands?
Um, it's more or less of both the silk and the metallic.
Okay, so you keep them in the same proportion.
Correct. So, I mean, you can kind of pull apart a silk lame and you will see each individual strand, whether it's the silk or the metallic. Um, so the way our braiding machines work is there are X amount of um, spools that go in that, twist to make the silk lame. And so, the 18 refers to 18 count, 13 refers to 13 count. And so because the 13 holes are bigger, it
Right.
makes more sense for the thread to be thicker. And so there's more spools of silk and metallic on the 13 than there is on the 18 or the petite.
Okay, and I think there is an assumption out there that I think I read somewhere the assumption is not correct. Tell me what the base threads are for silk lame. I think most people think it is a metallic, which I think is true. And I always assumed it was Splendor, but I think I read somewhere it's actually not the same as the silk and the Splendor,
No, it's not. So the Splendor is strandable.
right?
The silk is just braided silk, and so it's much finer. It's very different. It's not the same.
So two very different raw materials, but
Yeah.
most stitchers out there think they're the same. And to be honest, for most stitchers, it probably doesn't matter.
Right, yeah.
I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, and those are our two biggest lines. Splendor and Silk Lame are the top dogs, and so it makes sense to think that, but no, it's different.
Okay, fascinating. And then you brought up how we haven't had a trade show in a while. So what the average stitcher probably doesn't realize is we have a big trade show usually in the spring and a big trade show in the fall. The fall one has just recently been set aside, at least as an in-person show, which is super disappointing, but understandable. We're all like, I'm not criticizing anyone. It's just sad.
Yeah.
But there's also a smaller trade show that maybe will start to grow that you and your father's company, Fleur de Paris, host, right? Or just Fleur host it and Rainbow shows up because they're next door.
Yeah, we host it together.
Okay.
It's pretty small. We've invited about in the past. We did it the past 2 years, and we phrased it as an open house. And we would have about 15 vendors displaying, and whoever was willing to come was more than welcome to come to shop. And yeah, we were pretty happy with the turnout and the success of it. Our warehouse has gotten a little tighter, but yeah, for the most part, I mean, it was something that people really enjoy doing on a much smaller scale.
Right.
And hopefully, if it's something we can do again, we would love to do it.
Okay. Because that's been, if I recall correctly, the end of January, not the most recent
Yeah.
Januaries for obvious reasons, but up until uh, this current year, right? Because January 2020, the world
Yeah.
was somewhat normal. So
Yeah. We were approached a few years ago by a couple of people in the industry because I guess it made the rounds that we had a pretty big, large space.
okay.
And so, for us, it's kind of a no-brainer. All of our inventory is here.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have a lot of inventory on both sides. So yeah, and most people, shops and vendors were happy, with the sales or the purchasing.
Good. Well, I have not been because it is a little bit of a trek from Detroit to LA. But you know what? I'll be there with bells on this year if you do it because I am so anxious to see product in real life and not just point at a screen and hope that I'm ordering the right thing and all those sorts of things. So I hope that you all are brave enough to do it because I think you'll have a lot more people showing up than you may have had in the past.
Yeah, we're considering it and kind of thinking about logistics, and hopefully we can make it work.
Good, good. Well, my best friend from college lives not in LA, but hey, in California, a lot closer to you than to me. So I might just have to, call it
Yeah,
a business trip and go and visit her.
it's funny. The first year we did it, we assumed that only people that could drive up would come,
Right.
and people flew in. I mean, we were surprised, but
Yeah.
If
Well,
people are willing to come, it's kind of a no-brainer for us to do it.
well, rumor has it there's a bus from Santa Barbara to LA airport. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to swing this.
Yeah, we encourage it.
Good, good. Well, is there anything we haven't covered that I missed you'd like to talk about or?
No, I think that was everything.
Okay, well, thank you again for your time. Thank you for doing what you're doing. I'm sure you're working endless hours and I'm still shocked that there's only 14 of you there. You've got to, everyone has to be exhausted, I'm sure, just like they are at my shop. But I know I'm couldn't be more thankful to my employees for putting in the hours they do. And I'm sure you're the
Yeah, I mean, we can't do it without them, and I'm, I've always have been very grateful, both for the employees in the warehouse as well as the office employees, because, without them, it's not possible to do what we do.
yeah.
Uh, Especially for me, just as somebody that came into the business and everybody else was working here for 10, 15 years.
Well, they've probably taught you a thing or two, I'm guessing.
They definitely have.
Good, good. Well, thank you again. I so appreciate your time and I hopefully will look forward to seeing you at the next trade show, maybe in LA in January. We'll see.
We're hopeful. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. Chat soon.